show no love, because sometimes love will get you killed. In June 2008, Jodi Arias savagely murdered her boyfriend, Travis Alexander. Her initial story was that she wasn't even in the same state at the time of the murder, which happened to be Arizona. Her second story was that two people broke in, killed Travis right in front of her, but let her live? And they even took her driver's license? Finally, she admits she was there, and that she killed Travis. But it was self-defense because Travis was verbally and physically abusive. I don't know if Travis hit Jodi. I'm not here to talk about that or even speculate on that. I'm here to discuss the murder of Travis Alexander by the hands of Jodi Arias. She was quite a character, even somewhat captivating.
Can I get you just to have a seat here? I'll be right in.
Do you mind you can take the handcuffs off?
What's that?
Can you take the handcuffs off?
As soon as the detective gets in here, Detective Flores, he can take those off for you. I think that's what he told you anyway, that he'd allow you to have your handcuffs on.
She even got prepared for prison interviews as if she was going on Ellen to promote her new movie.
I guess that's really all I needed. Sorry. Don't roll. I guess that's really all I needed. Sorry. Don't roll the tape yet.
Jodi, how did you meet Travis and when?
We met at the Rainforest Cafe in the MGM Grand in Las Vegas.
How long ago was that?
That was in September of 2006.
What was it about him when you saw him that kind of drew you to him?
You know, there wasn't really any initial magnetic attraction. At the time, I shook his hand. He said, "Hi, I'm Travis." I said, "Hi, I'm Jodi," and his name was just another of many names that I had to remember. I was meeting hundreds of people that weekend. We were all there for a big convention, and so it was right after I had finished eating with a group of people, and we got up and shook hands with a few people. He was among them, and then we began to walk throughout the casino, and he made it a point to keep walking next to me and keep me engaged in conversation, and we just, you know, by the time we made it around to the big gold lion in the front of the lobby, we had discovered a couple of common interests and that sort of thing.
How did your friendship develop more?
Well, we hung out throughout the weekend, had a lot of fun. exchanged phone numbers, and it was one of those things where I didn't expect him to call. But he called me the very next day. And so I was like, oh, hi. And, you know, he's a good conversationalist. He just kept me engaged in conversation constantly. And, you know, he wanted to know about me, and people like to talk about themselves. So, you know, it was just one thing led to another, and we became great friends.
Oh, trust that we know that you love to talk about yourself, Jodi. And I'm sure you love just as much that other people talk about you, too. Jodi Arias is an odd character. There's no doubt that she killed Travis. But why did she kill him? Like she just said, the two first met at a prepaid legal conference in Las Vegas in September 2006. The two started long-distance dating while the pair lived in different states, with Jodi living in California and Travis in Arizona. Due to a rough childhood, Travis and his siblings were taken in by his grandparents, where his grandmother introduced him to Mormonism. Due to this, Travis presented himself as a 30-year-old virgin and planned to get married in the Mormon faith. But while claiming to be a virgin, he and Jodi were secretly engaging in sexual activity. Oddly enough, Travis never even told people that Jodi was his girlfriend. While Travis was a Mormon, Jodi wasn't. Until she was, when she decided to convert to Mormonism. Travis won a trip to Cancun and told Jodi that he would be taking her with him. A trip to Cancun with the guy she's madly in love with sounds great at first, but just a few problems. The relationship was not going well. They argued, they fought, they didn't seem to get along, and at one point Travis had enough, breaks up with Jodi and decides he wouldn't be taking her to Cancun and would instead be taking another woman to Cancun with him. And Jodi was not pleased. After the breakup, the stalker inside of Jodi decided to pick up and move to Mesa, Arizona, just a few miles from Travis's house, to reportedly be closer to the Mormon faith. But we all know she moved there to be closer to Travis, as even Travis himself suspected. And even though they weren't together, they continued to have sex, with Travis calling Jodi late at night to come over. 9 months after moving to Arizona, Jodi notices Travis has began dating other women. Jodi makes the decision to move back to California with her grandparents. Weeks later, police were called for a burglary at that house. Strangely, not much was taken. A gun and a couple of Jodi's possessions were stolen from her room. And despite the breakup, Jodi continued to work with Prepaid Legal, and through that same company, met another man named Ryan Burns. Jodi had a scheduled business trip to Salt Lake City, Utah, which was also where Ryan Burns happened to live. She decided to make it a 2-for-1 special, mixing business with pleasure, as she pays Ryan a visit. Jodi had rented a car to make her way to Utah, picking it up on the 2nd of June, 2008, and returned it on the 7th. Meanwhile, Travis seemed to stop responding to work obligations, missing a conference call on the 4th of June, which he reportedly would never miss, as his work was his life. The woman who was supposed to go to Cancun with Travis became alarmed, and by the 9th of June, his friends are also concerned. Gathering a few friends together, they go to the home of Travis Alexander. He lived with several roommates, and once they were made aware that Travis was missing, they gain access to the locked door of Travis's room. And as the door opens, they are greeted by an offensive odor before making their way to the bathroom, finding the dead body of Travis Alexander in the shower. He had been stabbed multiple times, defensive wounds on his hands. His throat was slit from ear to ear, with the medical examiner testifying that his head was basically cut off and he had also been shot in the forehead. 911 is immediately called. The dispatchers ask if they know of anyone who might have had it out for Travis. And from the very first 911 call, the name Jodi Arias was mentioned. The death was deemed a homicide. There were blood trails. Sheets were removed from the bed. But downstairs they noticed a bit of blood on the washing machine. When it's opened, the bed sheets are discovered, along with the digital camera. And that camera had been run through the washing machine and was damaged, but it was sent off to the crime lab to see if any photos could be recovered. Travis's friends come forward, and they reveal that Jodi had a history of stalking Travis. At one point, his tires were slashed twice. Notes were even left on the cars of the women he was dating. On June 7th, 2008, Jodi returns from her Utah trip and soon learns that Travis has been brutally murdered, as if she didn't already know. Proceeding to post memorial photos saying that Travis was her best friend, soulmate, and was so upset that he left this world early, trying to give the impression of a distraught former girlfriend. She's online, posting all of these photos in honor and dedication of Travis. Meanwhile, his friends are all saying Jodi is a horrible person, and if anybody wanted him dead, it would be her. On June 17, 2008, Jodi comes forward saying she wants to help and is willing to give anything they may need, whether it be DNA, saliva, or whatever. She also says, "I wasn't even in Mesa, Arizona at the time and hadn't seen Travis since April." She voluntarily gives her DNA samples and says she wants to help catch the killer. Now, whoever put that camera in the washing machine probably thought it would wipe away whatever was on the card. On the camera, they find erotic photos of Jodi and Travis, all of which are time-stamped. And now it becomes clear to investigators that not only was Jodi in Arizona at the time of Travis's murder, but she was actually at his house. When his 3 roommates are asked if Travis had any enemies, the one name given was Jodi Arias. The police at first think 2 people might have been involved in the murder due to its brutality. As the scene is investigated, it seemed that whoever committed the crime had attempted to clean it up. Based on the recovered photos, the evidence proved Jodi was the last person to see Travis alive. The last photo of Travis before his death showed him in the shower at 5:29 p.m. that same day. Photos taken moments later show Travis bleeding on the bathroom floor. But Jodi sticks to her story, at least for now. When confronted by police, she still says she was nowhere near Arizona. Eventually, it's determined that a bloody handprint found in the home had blood containing both Travis and Jodi's blood. Thinking they have enough evidence to bring a charge against her, such as her DNA in the bloody palm print, photos proving she was there, among other things that weren't adding up, and Jodi's arrested and charged with first-degree murder. But she still sticks to her story despite being presented with the time-stamped photos. A few months after her arrest, it must have finally crossed Jodi's mind that the evidence that placed her at Travis's house on the day of the murder would be her downfall. So she finally changes her story. Jodi now admits she was in Arizona, but that she was not the one who committed the murder, saying Travis talked her into driving to Arizona as a detour to her trip, so that they could be together. She claims they had sex, took photos, but then someone broke into the house and killed Travis, describing a pair of intruders, a man and a woman, who broke into his home, holding them both at gunpoint before brutally attacking Travis, ultimately murdering him. Police then investigated Jodi's movements and phone records around the time of the murder, revealing that she had called Travis 4 times on June 2nd, 2008, a day before her trip to Utah. Jodi picked up her rental car in a different city and stops for gas cans before heading towards the Arizona border. She clearly didn't want to be seen on camera getting gas. She turned her phone off, and it isn't turned back on for 24 hours. And reportedly, Jodi was always on her phone. So why would she decide to go cold turkey for 24 hours? We know why. The recovered timestamp photos revealed Travis was murdered on June 4th, 2008. The next day, Jodi arrived in Utah, where she met up with a new boyfriend, Ryan Burns. While leaving Utah, she calls Travis's cell phone and leaves several messages, as if she forgot that she killed him. 2 years after her arrest, her story changes again. This time, admitting to killing Travis. She claims that Travis was both physically and verbally abusive towards her, and on this day, he asked her to take photos of him in the shower. But she accidentally drops his brand new digital camera, which sends Travis into a rage, who charges after her, and she thinks she's going to die. Another lie that fails to work. If she was defending herself with a knife, she would have just stabbed him and ran. If she was defending herself with a gun, she's probably going to shoot him in the foot and run, as he probably couldn't run with a shot foot. But there's stab wounds, a slit throat, and a gunshot wound. That's rage. That's hatred. Self-defense, rage, hatred, they don't really mix. When Jodi finally takes the stand, she starts at the beginning. She testifies for 18 days thinking she can sit there and explain to everyone what happened and that the jurors would believe her. She seemed to love the attention in court, knowing that she was the center of attention. She describes a childhood of abuse that she didn't have, and how that led to her meeting an abusive man who had weird sexual desires that she tried to conform with. She discusses their sexual life, going on and on about it. And the whole point of her taking the stand was to play the victim. Look at me, not Travis. Me, Jodi. She always felt like Travis was using her. She's never going to be the person or the wife that he wants. He's just going to use me for sex. And honestly, I think he was. And while Travis may not have treated Jodi well, but physically abusive is a different topic. The whole murder, Jodi claimed, was self-defense, was based on the fact that Travis had been physically abusive to her in the past. And on this day, he tried to kill her. So instead of dying herself, she killed Travis. But why didn't she say it was self-defense from the beginning? We know why. There were a lot of triggers for Travis's friends that there was something wrong with Jodi. Friends were very suspicious of her. She followed him around, tried to get into his social media accounts, slashed his tires on multiple occasions. Once Travis found her sleeping in his house after she reportedly crawled through the doggy door. The defense asked for multiple retrials, which were denied, and even her defense attorney tried to get off the case several times, but couldn't. Police determined Jodi stopped at Walmart on her trip to buy gas cans and had records of her stopping to fill those gas cans, clearly in an effort to avoid stopping or being seen on surveillance getting gas anywhere near Arizona. The gas cans were vital in proving that Jodi had planned the murder. According to her, over the course of their relationship, Travis had hit her, broke her finger, kicked her while she was on the ground, bruised her ribs, all of this which led to her being fearful of Travis, and on the last day of his life, when he went into a rage, she was just defending herself. Travis's exes come forward saying although he did lie about being a virgin, he was respectful and was never physically abusive. The robbery of Jodi's grandparents' house just days before the murder of Travis was also addressed, where the only notable stolen item was a gun. Neither the stolen gun or the murder weapon were ever recovered, but the gun used in the murder happened to be the same caliber weapon that went missing from the grandparents' home. Police believe Jodi had been planning this for quite a while. Jodi prepared for the trip by renting a car outside of the city she lived, getting gas cans, and turning off her cell phone. Jodi waited until Travis was in a vulnerable position to initiate the attack. He got in the shower, and Jodi said she wanted to take a photo shoot of him. She stabs him in the chest. His throat is slit, but still wanting to make sure he was dead, shot him in the head. On May 7th, 2013, the jury finds Jodi Arias guilty of murdering Travis, with thousands of people cheering outside of the courthouse when the verdict was announced. After being convicted of the murder, the next phase would be to determine whether she would face life or death in prison. But Jodi being Jodi, directly after being convicted, she gave an interview with a local TV reporter saying she'd rather die than be sent to prison for the rest of her life.
Hours after pleading for her life in front of the jury, she spoke with ABC's Ryan Owens, who joins us now from Phoenix. You've been covering this trial from the beginning, and now you had a chance to talk to her. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning to you, Robin. You're right. We sat down with her for almost an hour last night. She was worried about her hair. She was worried about her makeup, and especially about her wardrobe. She did not want anyone to see those stripes that they make them wear in jail here. But the one thing she seemed to not be very worried about is the very real possibility she could be sentenced to death as soon as later today.
To this day, I can hardly believe I was capable of such violence.
Even though Jodi Arias repeatedly said she'd rather die than spend her life in prison, when it really counted, the convicted killer changed her tune. She claims to spare her family.
I thought I'd rather die. But as I stand here now, I can't in good conscience ask you to sentence me to death because of them.
Just hours after her final plea for mercy, we found out the 32-year-old wasn't done talking. She sat down with me for a 40-minute jailhouse interview Tuesday night. I started with that statement to the jury and the words she didn't say to Travis Alexander's family. Why didn't you apologize to them?
I did apologize to them.
You never said, "I'm sorry."
I said that I'm sorry, that I'll never be able to make up for what I did, and that I can never replace their loss.
But you didn't use the word "I'm sorry."
Well, then I'm sorry I didn't say that, because certainly I am sorry. I think, in a sense, the words "I'm sorry" just seem meaningless, especially since nobody believes what I'm saying anyway.
You said it right there. No one believes a word out of your mouth. Why do you keep talking?
Well, because I know that I've lied before. That doesn't mean that I'm a liar by definition, by character.
What do you think of this jury? It's pretty clear they don't think too much of you. I wonder what you think of them.
I don't know. I feel a little betrayed by them. I don't dislike them. I just was really hoping that they would see things for what they are, and I don't feel that they did.
To a lot of people, they think this switch from "I want to die" to "now I want to live" is just another lie from Jodi Arias.
Well, I don't know what that means. Was I lying when I said I want to die, or was I lying when I say please spare my life? You know, whatever happens, I'm just going to take it and deal with it.
You said today you want to give Travis's family closure. You know they want you dead, so why don't you give them that closure?
Well, what do you mean by that? Why don't I kill myself? Is that what you're asking?
No, why don't you accept the fate of the death penalty if you know that's what they want? If you truly care about their closure?
Well, I've caused them a lot of pain. I've caused my family a lot of pain. And I think that by asking for death, I'm only going to cause more pain to my family.
If you were on that jury and you had heard what they had heard, would you kill you?
I don't believe in capital punishment. So the answer would be no.
For now, Arias is sticking by that story the jury didn't buy, that she's an abused woman who killed in self-defense when Alexander lunged at her from his shower.
So you really are never going to tell the truth about what went down in that bathroom?
I don't know what you mean by that, because I've told the truth.
Okay.
I didn't know that you were a hater when you came to interview me.
I'm not.
And that was about as angry as Arias got. She stayed composed throughout, if not occasionally smug.
A lot has been made about your appearance and your change in appearance. Was going from blonde bombshell to sort of the mousy church librarian look in court, was that a defense strategy? Was that your idea? What was that?
No, they don't sell Clairol hair dye in jail. So this is my natural hair color.
But there was more than just the hair color. The glasses, overall the demeanor is very different than the person that you were before this crime happened. What about that?
Well, this is a court of law. It's not a place to go and act crazy, or I shouldn't use that term, but it's not a place to go and just let loose. It's a court of law.
So you might ask why she gave an interview now, especially to someone she called a hater. Well, the fact is she may not have had much choice. If she is sentenced to death, they will move her to death row almost immediately. There are no lights, no cameras, no TV interviews, which may be the ultimate punishment for Jodi Arias.
The jury is deadlocked on whether to give her the death penalty. Due to Arizona law, the prosecutor pursued the death penalty again. A second trial occurs, and again the jury cannot decide. And she's automatically sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. There's been multiple appeals, none of which seem to have a strong base, and she's about to exhaust her appeals. Her defense attorney was disbarred for writing a book about Jodi. The psychologists who defended Jodi in court were later mobbed by people online who went after them and their reputations. While I and many others believe Jodi killed Travis due to his rejection of her, I feel that if not Travis, she would have eventually killed someone else for most likely the same reasons. If she couldn't have Travis, nobody could, herself included. Jodi seemed to think of herself as some sort of a prize, but I personally think she's nothing more than a participation trophy. This your boy, Lantic City. I'm out.